I was arrested for assault because somebody was breaking in my car and hit me. So I thought I was being arrested for nothing, right? But my wife made me correct myself because the charge was assault. Okay, but it was thrown out once the judge heard what happened. So just like Joseph, I was placed in for doing, I'm not going to say doing the right thing, beating them up. I probably should have called the police, would have been the right thing. Okay, but I landed in, you get my point. I landed there, but I really hadn't done anything wrong other than protect myself. And Joseph too landed there. But one thing about Joseph and me is that Joseph understood who he was. He understood the favor of God in his life. So he didn't lose sight of what God had placed in him. He went in and he was still favored. That favor was still transferable, portable, and contagious. But me, I was sitting in there every 15 minutes. I was whimpering like a baby. Man, when they gonna let me up out there? That 4 days for me, sometime, this is what the text says, sometime, that 4 days for me seemed like 40 years. Amen. For some of you, sometime might be 1 month. 1 month for you might be 1 year for me. So don't discount the text, but we're going to move on. So 2 full years had passed, and Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile when out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside those on the riverbanks. And the cows that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. Remember that he had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. You know, it's amazing to me how dreams are the major focus of Joseph's story. If you remember, Joseph had 2 dreams. He had the dream that was agricultural and the dream that was celestial. Then he interpreted the cupbearer and the baker's dream. And now Pharaoh is having 2 dreams. Somebody say 2. You got to check out the 2s in the text. I'm going to go through just a few 2s that I found as I was revisiting the text. Joseph had 2 dreams. One was agricultural, one was celestial. He had 2 prison situations. When they placed him in the pit, we talked about how the pit or the cistern was used back in those days as a place of imprisonment. When you had done something wrong, people would put you in the pit. They would put you in the pit during the season where there was no water. So you had no way of getting out, okay? So he had been imprisoned twice. Once in the cistern and once in prison. So he interprets the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker. That's 2. He had 2 brothers who planned to save his life, Reuben and Levi. Reuben and Judah. Reuben and Judah planned to save his life when the other brothers were plotting to kill him. There were 2 articles of clothing that were left behind. His brothers took the cloak that Jacob had given him because he was the favorite son. He got the coat from Nordstrom. They got the coats from Walmart. So they took his Nordstrom coat. And then the second piece of clothing that was taken from him was his cloak that Potiphar's wife snatched off him as he ran from her advance. Amen. And then not only that, no, those are the 2s. Those are the other 2. Those are all the 2s that I found. So now here we see Pharaoh having 2 dreams. You can't discount the 2s because the 2s represent expediency. Anytime someone had 2 dreams, anytime there was 2 dreams, that 2 meant that something was about to be expedited. Amen. Something was about to be expedited. So we cannot overlook the 2s in the text. So here it is. Pharaoh now has two dreams, and God uses Pharaoh's two dreams to elevate Joseph from the misery of prison to the splendor of the court. Amen. So here we see the elevation, or the expedient advancement from a prison situation to the palace. Amen. From the pit to the prison to the palace. Expedience. He had two dreams as a young man. He interpreted two dreams in prison. Pharaoh has two dreams. And Pharaoh's two dreams are going to elevate Joseph from where he is now to where God ultimately would have him to be, which is where he showed him in his dreams as a youth. Amen? All right, so look at verse 8 with me. Look at verse 8. In the morning, Pharaoh's mind was troubled. So he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. Let me ask you a question. Who in this text is good with dreams? I was going to say, don't everybody answer at once. Amen. I'm overwhelmed by your enthusiasm this morning. Joseph is good with dreams. I mean, he interpreted his own dreams, then he interpreted the dreams of the cupbearer. Now Pharaoh is going to the sorcerers and the magicians and the soothsayers and all these people trying to get his dreams interpreted, and nobody can interpret them. Somebody say, but the cupbearer. The cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. He finally remembered Joseph. And we look in verse number 9. It says, then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, today I'm reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly the way he interpreted them. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged. So Pharaoh, verse 14, so Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. Now listen, his gift just got him out of prison. His gift, Pharaoh doesn't know anything about this man. Pharaoh has no idea who he is. All he knows is that this young man interpreted two dreams. Both of them were correct. I've been trying to get these fools to interpret my dream for me, and none of them can do it. Bring the boy to me. Bring him to me, please. Bring him to me. His gift got him out. Your gift is going to get you out. But we got to first examine this. We got to look at this very, very closely, because there's some things that we cannot overlook. If we overlook them, we'll miss the totality of the text. Here's what I want you to see. The second half of verse 14 says, when he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. All night long last night, as I was driving back from Montgomery, Alabama, to Davidson, North Carolina. When you have time to think, and everybody was asleep. I think the radio announcers were asleep. My wife was asleep. The kids were all sleeping. Everybody was asleep but me and God. And God was talking to me. God was talking to me. And as I was thinking about the text, God said, you have to share this with the people so that they get the totality of this text. I don't want them to miss the fact that character is vitally important. Character is vitally important. We don't have to get into what he had on. We don't have to get into how he was dressed. I just want to talk for a minute about his mindset. Before he went to see the king, he got himself together. And now, he was in the dungeon for God knows how long, so he probably had a beard down to the floor, probably didn't smell so good, he needed a haircut, he just needed to be cleaned